As a disclaimer, I absolutely love Prime One Studios. That's the company that made this statue and many of the ones I have. However, I'm starting to believe they just don't do quality control when it comes to Transformer statues. Welcome to the Extreme Channel. My name is Mr. X. Today we have another Transformer statue for you. I think this is the 13th or 14th one in my collection. And this is Jazz from Transformers, the Michael Bay films. This is Optimus Prime's first lieutenant. It's kind of the happy, comedic, not really comedic, but go-lucky, eliminate the seriousness vibe that you get from like Ironhide and Optimus Prime. And these pieces are a little bit controversial. What I mean by that is those movies, the Transformer movies, all 5 of them, were not widely recepted. I'm a big fan of the first, the second's okay, the third's okay, and then it just gets really bad. However, I absolutely love the characters. And a lot of people feel that same way, but some don't even like the design of the characters because it's more of a modern take. It's not the Generation 1 typical stuff you've seen. Now, I'm a collector of both. I have tons of Transformers from the Michael Bay movies. I have some from Beast Wars. I have some Generation 1. Now, I had absolutely no plans to buy this piece because it wasn't really impressive. As you can see, it's a lot smaller in size, which is accurate to Jazz in the movie. This is non-scaled, but most people think it's about 1/10 scale, so meaning they shrunk down the giant-sized robot 10 times. I had no plans to buy him, but in May of 2020, Prime One Studios from their website did a winter sale. He was a couple $100 off, and I had like $400 or $500 in points. So I ended up getting him for $400 all in. And that included the economy shipping to the United States. And now that he's here, as I alluded into the intro, I am frustrated. I'm frustrated for a few reasons. We're going to do an in-depth review. We're going to talk about all that. We're going to talk about a major quality control issue. But before we do that, we're doing a statue giveaway. Check it out. We are going to hit 20,000 subscribers in 2020. To do that, we're giving away a statue every 2,500 subs. At 15,000 subs, the winner will get to choose between these 2 PCS Mortal Kombat statues. Make sure that you've liked this video, you've subscribed to the channel, and you've hit that bell notification. Then stay tuned towards the end of this video to find out how to enter. So to quote Optimus Prime, we're going to roll right into this review and start out with concept. Now, as I said, this is made by Prime One Studios. Prime One Studios, no relation to Optimus Prime, even though they are big into the Transformers pieces. And this entire line, they're doing very similar, and you're going to see a lot of that in this. Check it out. On the bottom is a robotic Cybertronian base, and some of these, the base is actually optional because the key on the character's foot is actually inverted. However, this one, the base is necessary, and we'll talk more about that in design, has a Autobot symbol on the front. The base is pretty plain, pretty boring. Doesn't take up too much room in relation to the other statues, but for this character it does because he has a very wide stance. He's in what we call a museum pose. Now with all these Transformer characters, one unique thing about them is they're in their robotic form. So some of them you can't even tell what they transformed into. And as you move up, he's got a few different things going on. He's got a few different switch outs, but he is in attack mode even though, or maybe defense mode, even though he is in a museum stance. You move up, you see some of the inner workings of the car. Not as many as you see in some of the other statues, but you do see some in here for sure. You see the wheels, some motors, even a license plate. And he is pretty fierce. He has a few different portraits because this is the exclusive version, which we'll talk about. But nothing surprising here. It's the same concept that the rest of the statues are. And I think in the past I've rated the concepts pretty high. This one, because I'm a little bit negative, because of all the Transformer statues I have, kind of a spoiler, this is probably my least favorite one, and not just because of the issues. But I'm going to rate this a 3 out of 5. You know, the disadvantages to this, why it's not a 4 or a 5 out of 5, is you can't tell what he transforms into too much. He does take a much rather smaller footprint. I suppose while it's similar to the rest, it's kind of boring. I think the advantage that the rest of them have that this one don't is the massive size. Sometimes presence alone makes up for some of those shortcomings. Now, a 3 out of 5 is not a bad score. It's just okay. And for the price I paid, it's definitely worth it, which we'll get into when we talk about value. But first, let's talk about design, and this is where a ton of the problems were. The first thing I'm going to say is there's a lot of cheaper pieces in this one. Obviously, some of it's plastic, some of it's polystone, some of it's resin, but there seem to be a lot of plastic parts that went in. And the directions that Prime One Studios gives on these pieces is horrible. Here's a picture of the directions. They're close-ups where you can't even tell what piece is going where. And this is really frustrating. Lately, they've been doing some videos which are better, but this one didn't have a video. Thankfully, it wasn't that many pieces, but take a look at the assembly. There's only one box, very large, but not two boxes like typically with these Transformer statues. Had the normal art box that most of these do. And it was just one layer within it. As you can see, all the different pieces laid out. It's a lot, but not as many as there normally are. Now, as I said, this is the exclusive version, but this is not a statue that's what I call an exclusive or bust. I actually like the collector's version better. But here's what you get with the exclusive. They only made 350 of these exclusives, and you get this additional portrait right here, which I'm not really a fan of. All of them actually come with this portrait, which I am the fan of. So the 350 exclusives come with this, plus the 700 collector's edition they made. Then you have a switch out option for the right hand. You can have a claw, just like he is in his left hand, which he did use in the movie often. Or you can change it into a gun. Let's get the dimensions on him. So as I said, this base is much smaller than the other Transformers, but because of his wide stance, it does take up a lot of room. It's over 20 inches wide. And then the depth is probably about a little under 14. And the highest point on him is just under 18 and a half. Now, I cut out some of the assembly video for you guys because there was a huge problem. And if you recall, you're a follower of the channel, I had a big problem with the last Prime 1 Studios Transformer I got, this Optimus Prime Age of Extinction. It was almost an identical story. I got it for a great deal on their sale, waited months and months for it to arrive, just like this one, and I could not get the statue into the base. Well, guess what? It happened again. And what's crazy about this, I don't know if you can tell in the pictures, but the key hole that it goes into has a rounded corner. The key itself on Jazz is not rounded. So literally, they want us to put a square peg into a round hole. So I spent about 30 minutes on it because I thought maybe I just need to try and ease it in slowly. It'll work better.
That's what she said.
I'm going to take some sandpaper and kind of sand down the key. But the key is so oversized, it's actually unbelievable. And what really ticks me off about this, I understand there's an edition size of 1,050 of these. You can't do quality control and assemble every single statue. But at the price point we're doing it at, they really should. Especially when you consider this happened with the previous statue that I got as well. So eventually, I just said kind of screw it, and I left it in there. Now, this is what you can't see. Here's a close-up. The key barely goes in. But because it's so tight, it is decently stable. However, to me, this is just unacceptable when you have a $1,000 collectible, and it happens multiple times. So I am going to reach out to Prime 1 Studios. I never did on the Optimus Prime. I'm pretty laid back. I'm not one of those people that every single time something goes wrong, I reach out, I demand a refund, I demand a return, because I understand that stuff happens. But man, that's frustrating because this one was even worse than Optimus Prime. So with the crappy directions, with the fact that it doesn't even fit correctly, and this leg is the base of the entire statue, and some of the pieces made out of plastic, a little bit cheaper than some of the other models, I do have to give them a 2 out of 5 on the design, which is really unfortunate because Prime 1 Studios is a great quality company. You have to remember, though, they deal in mass quantities, and when they do, things like this happen. Now we're going to dive into paint and sculpt, and if I hadn't seen any of the other Transformer pieces, I probably would be more impressed with this guy, but compared to the rest, he does leave a lot wanting. And one of the things is you don't see as much detail and inner circuitry and works and things like that, and it just kind of seems boring. But let me show you what I'm talking about. Now let's start with the exclusive head. Now one thing I do like about the Michael Bay Transformers is how the face itself is kind of different metallic pieces put together, where you typically don't see that as much in Generation 1. But here's the normal face. Like I said, I'm not a fan. It's just kind of a dull expression, which is hard to do. These fins, this is some of the cheap stuff I was talking about that feels like plastic, incredibly light. They do have a light up feature I never talked about during design, but I typically never use those. Now down here at the base, check this out. So one different thing about this and some of the other ones, they're all decently plain and boring, but I think a little bit of color could have mixed this up. Some of them have colors in the corners, whether it's gold or blue, to really give, the whole statue is all these silvers and grays, and it's really monotonous and kind of boring in a way. And there's not as much detail. Like even on the side here, you have a few ridges, you do have some Cybertronian writing, but just very boring, and the dark color does not help it at all, even with the lighter colored gray grates on top, a few buttons, few designs. I have definitely seen better from some of the other bases. Now moving on to Jazz here, one thing I really like is the tarnished stained bottoms of his feet here. Look like really rusted, or they're worn, or he just got out of some mud. It's the only Transformer that has that much of a contrast of the dirt. And that's really the only or rust or whatever it is, that's really the only contrast you will actually see on this. The tires look cheap. The other ones have more of a rubber-like look. You can definitely tell that these are a solid stone. A little bit of miss on that, and you'll see that with the top tires as well. And as you move up him, you don't see as much inner workings as you do in some of the other Transformers. You see a few here, a few cables, pistons. Then he has the outer shell that the Porsche was of this silver color. It looks okay. It's not as impressive. It's not as detailed as what you were traditionally seeing with these Prime 1 Michael Bay Transformer pieces. And even on the back here, you do see a little bit more of that, but this is the back. You see some shocks there, maybe the brake line, headlights. And you do see a few pieces besides just the headlights and the tires that let you know this is a car. Check out on the front torso here, the license plate, the front grille, and this has kind of that faded look. What's interesting to me is how he has all these dirt and specks right here, but not on the other parts of the outer body, for whatever reason. On the top here, you do see quite a bit more of the circuitry and inner workings, which I like. And with most of them, you can turn the head. And here is his regular head. Like I said, I think it looks much better with the visor, and it might just be because he's an ugly dude. That exclusive head we looked at was kind of a chipmunk. Has those fins in the back, almost like racing fins, kind of tie it to the Porsche itself. And looking at the arm here, a little more wear on the metal right here, the outer coverings. Here's the cannon. I like this. If it was just both claws, I wouldn't dig it. I also like that they offered this with both the exclusive and the regular. It's nice. Especially because he does have those weird hands, these claws right here. I think when people see these, you remember the scene where he disarmed the S7 agents. That's one of my favorite scenes. So he is a good looking statue, just nothing really impressive. And the bar to me is just higher because of the other Transformer pieces. So as I said, if I was reviewing this for the first time without ever seeing another Transformer statue, I think it would be rated much higher. But because I've seen what Prime 1 Studios can do, and I would speculate this is one of the earlier pieces, I'm going to give the Sculpt, I think it's a 3 out of 5. I think it could have been done much better. I think there could have been more detail, especially in those inner workings like we talked about. But I don't want to say I'm disappointed, but the bar was just incredibly high. Now, as I said with the paint, one of the big disadvantages, it's so monotone. There's so much silver and grays in here, he really doesn't stand out, especially if you're going to display him in a darker area, which I am. If you want to see where he's displayed, go ahead and check out the Extreme Channel Facebook page. The link is in the description below. If you go ahead and you get on there and you actually like it, you'll see when I post updates of pictures that I don't do on YouTube. So I think they should have varied up the base. I think the art direction, if they'd done more inner workings on the, if they'd done more paint detail on that inner circuitry, it would have helped. So I think the paint's also a 3 out of 5 on this statue. Now, Mr. X, you get what you pay for. Well, you got a hell of a deal. That's right, and we're going to talk about that in value right now. With value, I'm not going to say how much I paid for him. It's a great deal for the price that I paid, absolutely. We're going to say what the retail price for what you would normally pay, which was $999. $999, granted, he's about the size of a quarter scale figure, which typically run anywhere from $400 to $800. So he is priced quite a bit more. The Transformers pieces that Prime 1 Studios do, the resale value seems to go through the roof. It seems like you can always get your money back. If I get this peg issue, this key issue fixed, I think I can get at least $1,000 for him. But I don't see him going anymore. He's a lesser popular character. Like I said, the fact that he's smaller actually hurts it quite a bit. And you're still paying $1,000, and he's still available on Prime 1 Studios' website. I think he's not a character you get as a standalone or 1 or 2 pieces. So this character right here, this statue, is for those completing the Transformers line. It's not for someone who says, hey, I want a few Transformer pieces. So the value is not great on this guy, but it's not bad. As I said, the resale value of these seem to go very high, and I doubt everyone's going to do a Bayformer Jazz. So the value is also a 3 out of 5 on this statue. Which brings us to the X factor of the final score. Is this an X statue? Of course it's not. Cumulatively, it would add up to about a 3. And I think that's where this statue falls. There are some cool things on it. I was bashing it pretty hard, but it's cool for what it is. I think it's a 3 out of 5 overall. Do I regret buying him? If I had bought him at full price, I would say yes. But I think the deal I got, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. I've definitely made much, much worse purchases. And speaking of that, tell me about a bad purchase you made. Be cool conversation topic. I love to read your guys' comments, and I love seeing so many likes and responses where everyone else reads everyone's comments, because that will also get you into the statue giveaway. To win one of these Mortal Kombat statues, all you have to do is comment on a video. At 15,000 subscribers, I'm going to pick a random video and pick a random comment. That person will win the prize. They can choose between these 2 pieces. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Next Transformers statue to arrive is XM Studios Starscream. So if you want to see that, hit that Mr. X logo. If you haven't subscribed already, hit the bell notification. And between now and then, or now and tomorrow, because that's when I'll talk to you next, check out some of the other statues from Prime 1 Studios. Take care.